So, about that ambulance, Jack said, clapping his hands together. Why don't you have a seat and I'll give them a call? The man shook his head. I told you, no ambulance. Worth a try. I'll have to distract him and call when he's not looking. He watched the man wander around the flat and wished he'd tidied up a bit instead of doing paperwork. However, it seemed to meet the man's approval as he turned to Jack and said, I like that you live simply. Jack wasn't sure if that was a compliment, but he chose to take it as one. Thanks. He guessed he did live pretty simply. There were no photos up, mostly because he didn't have anyone that he wanted to look at on his walls every day. And he never got sentimental about possessions, so had no qualms about chucking things out, which meant he never had to worry about clutter. He also wasn't particularly interested in technology, never had been. He had no computer games. As far as he was concerned, they killed brain cells. He only used his computer for work. He'd rather read a book or make his ornaments. Tea? Jack asked, ushering the man into the sitting room. Don't mind if I do. The man sat back in Jack's armchair. And now that I've got your attention, we need to talk. Got my attention? Jack repeated. Talk about what? You don't really think I couldn't handle a bunch of kids, do you? The man chuckled. Well, of course I could, but I needed us to meet. Jack stared at him. Of course you could. You're saying you deliberately got your ass kicked so you could meet me. That's right. First tea, then we'll talk. Jack opened his mouth to say something, but the man waved a hand at him. Tea, then we'll talk. Jack sighed and forced a smile before leaving the room. Right away, sir, he mumbled. He flicked the kettle on and then crept back into the hallway and picked up his phone. Time to call the crazy old man a doctor. And, in his opinion, it was a head doctor that was needed, but he'd call an ambulance and let them worry about that. He pressed the first button when a voice from behind him made him jump. Kitto! Jack spun round guiltily, holding the phone behind his back. Sorry? Kitto, the man repeated. I never introduced myself. My name is Kitto. Oh, right. My name's Jack. There was an awkward silence for a moment before Jack added, Unusual name. Cornish, the man replied, smiling pleasantly. There was another silence before the man said, How's the tea coming along? Jack managed to place the phone back on the table behind him. Yep, I'm doing it. Why don't you sit yourself down? As Kitto made his way back to the living room, Jack returned to the kitchen and carried on with the tea. After a moment, he thought he'd try calling the ambulance again, but as he poked his head out of the kitchen door, Kitto was waiting by the living room. Need a hand bringing it in? All under control, Jack disappeared back into the kitchen, cursing under his breath, and picked up the tea. He carried it through and took a seat. He watched warily as Kitto sipped his drink. He wondered whether he was some homeless guy who was trying to scam a bed for the night. He had that look about him. It wasn't just his hair that had that slightly wild, not often brushed appearance. His straggly beard also needed some attention. His clothes looked too big for him and needed an iron. Now for our talk. Kitto placed his cup on the coffee table. Yes, our talk, said Jack uncomfortably. Just smile and nod, he told himself. What I have to tell you may be hard for you to believe. Kitto spoke slowly. At first, anyway. Do you have any opinions on the matter of witchcraft? Opinions about witchcraft? Jack tried to suppress a smile. I haven't really thought about it. No, why would you? Kitto laughed. Up until now, it hasn't affected your life, but I'm afraid it's going to. It's not only going to affect your life, it's going to become your life. You see, I need to tell you that witchcraft exists, and that, in the past, some people were chosen to live the life of a witch. Jack did as he had planned and smiled and nodded. I see. And I am one?